please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item on the agenda is a public comment. Does anyone have anything they would like to say about
Anything? Not yet.
the business on the housing authority that has to do with policies and procedures or finances? Alice?
Recently hearing about the electric rates going up about 37%, and I know Packagard is all electric, that I think that the housing should perhaps write a letter to every occupant to advise them of that in case they hadn't read about it in the paper, and to remind them to not open windows and turn the heat up, or to try to do things to conserve a bit. Running the faucets for a long time because that requires heat to heat that water, the electricity, and just to ask the people to be very cautious of what they do and to be considerate, conservative to, I think it would be a suggestion. That's what I have.
Does anybody else have anything they want to say? Okay, if not, we'll go on to discussion and vote on the bullying policy. Do we have a motion to accept the bullying policy?
I'll make a motion to accept the bullying policy.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Discussion. Anybody? Yes,
Yeah.
sir?
Go ahead.
Did you want to go first?
That's fine.
I just had a few questions. I was kind of wondering, I think it's kind of, I'm not sure how the process is going to work as far as consequences go. Who's going to determine that, what they're going to be. I'm kind of wondering where this came from. I've never quite seen anything like it. I didn't know if it was copied from someplace else. Has it had a legal review? Has there been a legal opinion on it?
I just was handed this afternoon. It's on Senate Bill number 604, and it talks about, it says the undersigned legislators and citizens respectfully petition for the adoption of the accompanying bill, an act to protect residents of subsidized housing developments from bullying prevention policies and plans, and research and demonstration programs. So it sounds like we're right in line with.
Is that different than what's here?
I haven't had a chance to read it.
I would,
This came from the Society of Human Resource Management. They put out suggested policy, like a sample, that members of the group could use to write their own policies. So that's where the majority of this came from.
Where is that society located? Is it Massachusetts or?
No, it's national.
Do you know where they're located?
No,
Does it have a website or something?
yep, I can get you the information.
Ray, you had your hand raised.
are you done?
Yeah.
Okay. The disciplinary steps, the way you've got it here, it just seems too vague to me. I mean, you know, including determination and everything else. I think you just need more of a guideline of how you're going to work this, and who's going to be in charge of this bullying policy. Who's this going to go to?
Well, it would go to the grievance panel.
And who's the grievance man?
Ellen Gabriel is on the grievance panel. So if a resident had a problem, they can file a grievance, and Ellen reviews it.
Okay, if a board member had a problem with an employee, they would have to go to Ellen,
No.
or do they go to the chairman, or do they go to the director?
Goes to the chair.
Okay, well, I was advised by somebody to go through the director on an issue. I'm not gonna bring it up right now. And I was told to go to the director, and then I'll go to the chairman. So that just kind of, the process is
Well, how
not
do you
what
want
it is.
it? How do you want it to be? How do you?
I don't know, I just wanna know, I just wanna know where it's actually gonna go. So I don't come down the road later and say, you have to go over here, not over here. Because that's what just happened to me.
I think if the problem is with an employee, it would go to the director. If the problem is about the director, then it would go to the chairman.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
okay.
And-
No, that's what I want to make sense.
If the problem is with an employee, because I'm responsible for the employees, that would have to come to me. But if the problem is with me, then the complaint would have to go to the director.
Like the
Okay.
chairman.
Or, the chairman.
But then what would happen from there?
Then
Well,
the
nothing has
chairman-
happened.
the chairman could call an attorney, and I don't have to have permission to do that.
Does it,
As a chairman, I would call for an attorney to represent the board.
But then what would happen? I mean, how would the process work? What would happen after that?
It would depend on what the
the
attorney.
decision?
Yes.
Okay, if a board member wanted to request to talk to an attorney, how do they do that? As a board member?
As a board member, I don't think you can you? I think it would have to go through the chairman.
Well,
I don't know. Let me see what I've got on notes here, because I did write something down in the class that we had.
I mean, you probably could call Karen Allers, or you could call Jeffrey Driscoll, because they did the training. And
Right.
at those trainings, didn't they give you their contact information?
Yes,
Oh,
they did.
yeah, I have the contact
So
information,
if-
but I want to go through the committee, because I have a couple avenues I'm pursuing.
Okay.
But I just want to make sure that what I'm doing right through the committee and the state.
I think because Jeffrey Driscoll did the personnel training
Yeah.
that all the board members attended, I think he would be the person that you could contact if you had a question.
So instead of going to the director or the chairman of housing, I should go through lawyer, Driscoll.
Well, you can ask him what avenue that you should take. Or does it say in the, I didn't take that class, so I don't, it
Well, I got the
doesn't spell it
paperwork,
out.
I got that paperwork at home, I can call him and talk to him about that.
Call him and ask him what he would advise you to do.
Yeah, because if we have to hire somebody, that has to go before the board, I would think.
Unless it's Karen Alves.
Yes, because she's from the state.
Does that answer your question? Not really.
Somewhat, I think, I know what I'm gonna have to do, as far as that issue goes.
We haven't had a problem that we've had to address.
Well, we have a problem that we need to address. That's my problem. Public humiliation in any form. So if somebody disagrees with something, the housing, any one of us, they have no right to speak on that. I don't know why, humiliation, what do you understand as being humiliation?
I view that as if you were in a group of people and you made negative comments or threats, you know what I mean? If you,
Comments with threats?
or if you humiliated somebody. If you look at the definition of humiliation, I mean, if you disrespect somebody,
Or disparaging remarks about the
disparaging
person.
remarks,
Embarrassing.
embarrassing people,
Well,
I would think that would be public humiliation. But that's just my opinion.
okay. spreading rumors and gossip regarding individuals. We saw that at our last meeting. And, you know, these are from employees of our own authority, board and director. And now we want to make a policy for that.
See, we don't have a policy in place now, but this would
Oh, I know
prevent
we
it
don't.
from happening in the future.
I mean, like the last meeting.
As long as the rumors, you know what I mean, rumors and gossip.
Yeah.
We have
Okay.
no control over what people say out in public.
Right, that's another thing I want to make sure that was understood, that we don't have control of people outside of this, okay, outside of the house. Taking credit for another person's idea. I mean, that seems kind of weird to me, because I think a lot of people do that, just in general, in life. And I know it's not right, because I don't believe in it, but it just seems, you have it written there, it's like, come on, this guy.
All right,
So I take that out, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know what the board members feel. But,
see, I just took this from what they gave
Oh, no.
gave as a sample, so.
right, but,
I figured that these were things that other agencies, and this wasn't just housing, this is human resources
Yeah.
altogether
right,
on a
well,
national level. So
I
that
told
probably
them,
doesn't even,
don't,
it probably doesn't even apply to us.
no.
That's theft.
Taking an idea,
Taking credit for another person's ideas. If a person does all the work and gets an idea and is going to present it, and another person presents it as theirs, to me, that's theft.
It's also plagiarism.
Well, that's up to the board, but I don't believe it should be there. Encouraging those,
it may
just
not
with that
belong in this
management's
policy.
instructions,
May not.
that's fine.
It may not belong in this policy, that,
No. It doesn't.
on the second.
Next to the rest.
What was your other one, Ray?
I don't know, I might have said something about this. Spreading rumors and gossip regarding individuals. Now, we have that problem with our own board. We have that problem with our own employees. So,
So-
as long as if this policy passes, this would have to do with the board, the director, the employees that are hired right now,
In the residence.
and the residents. Oh, I understand that.
Anybody affiliated with the housing authority would be across the board. And all the board members would be asked to sign it because they'd be signing the policy. And all the employees would be signing it because it would be bullying policy and they'd have to
Okay.
sign it.
Right.
And all the residents will be required to sign it. The rumors, the gossip, it's hurting. And there's no need for it. But it needs to be across the board, as far as the housing
Oh, it's gotta be
authorities.
across the board. If I'm gonna agree to anything, it's gonna be across the board.
Absolutely.
But as of right
Yeah.
now, we don't have anything in place to address these things. But once we have this policy in place, then disciplinary action can be taken, whether it's through the board, whether it's through the administrative of the office, or whether it's a lease violation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
Once we have a policy in place, then we have something to enforce.
Okay, just a discipline thing, I think I need more in there to understand the way this is gonna work by step. So if somebody got in trouble, say Joyce, got in trouble. And do you have a process where you're gonna go say, well, you talk to Joyce and you talk to the other person, everything seems to be okay, but you wanna make a file, do you give her a warning first?
We have a progressive discipline policy for the employees. We have that. That's
For the employees?
for the employees. We have a progressive discipline policy.
Okay, can I
And
get
you
a copy
have,
of
you
that?
have a copy of it. That was
I'll
given
check
to you.
again, but I was looking at the policies the other day, so.
No, you have a personnel, it's in the personnel policy,
Okay,
okay?
no, I understand, but
I know you were
I was
given,
looking at them the other day, so. I know you gave me a whole bunch of them
and that's
that I've
what,
been going through, so. I mean, maybe I haven't seen it or gotten to it, but I'm gonna get to it.
I mean, I don't know as far as the board Did they talk about when you
Yeah,
took the training?
I did take some notes on it, but I can't remember everything.
In that personnel class, did they talk about conduct of the board members?
They did vaguely, yeah. It wasn't
Do you remember anything?
somewhat. No, I'm all right, as long as if it's in there, I'll check, go through
But
it.
this is gonna be across the board. This is gonna be a housing authority-wide policy, and anybody affiliated with the housing authority is gonna have to be in compliance of it.
Okay, so just say one of the residents had a problem with Mrs., no, I don't want to say her name, whatever you call her. What's her position? Liaison?
Oh, community liaison.
Community liaison. Who would they would go to you, right? Now, if they had a problem with you, you would go to the town clerk
No.
or the
No.
chairman? Chairman, okay,
To Roberta.
okay.
And then Roberta would bring it to the board, and I think it would be an executive session,
Yeah, definitely.
okay? But, I mean, so there is a process in place for that. And now, if we have an issue with a board member, then that would go to Roberta, and then that would go
Executive session.
in executive session,
All right. Okay.
from what I understand.
No, you sound, it sounds right.
But if a
I just want to
resident,
clarify, so if
if
we
a
do these
resident
things.
has a problem, and then they have the opportunity to file a grievance, and the grievance is heard by the grievance officer, who's Ellen Gage.
Town clerk.
Yeah. We want somebody independent. And her alternate is Deb Greenwald, the assistant town clerk.
Okay.
Are you through?
I'm all set for now.
And you had your...
Wouldn't it be appropriate to spell the consequences and the specific procedure
Yeah.
to put it in writing? To me, this is awfully broad. It doesn't specify exactly how it's going to be handled. It doesn't say what the person's rights are. It sounds as though like the person doesn't have any rights. And it doesn't, you talk about a progressive discipline policy for employees. I don't know that we have such a thing for other folks.
I don't think we do.
I don't know if that's something we need. I wish we had a legal opinion on this. And then the other thing I'm wondering is whether that bill information that you just got this
That I just
afternoon,
got, right.
maybe they're going to have a draft.
Because I haven't even had a chance to read it yet.
Kim?
I'm sorry, I
I'm
interrupted.
sorry, I interrupted too.
Well, that would be bullying when it is. You interrupted me.
That's right.
But I'm just saying, maybe in that sample, in that legislation that's coming up today,
Sorry.
maybe there's a draft policy that they're going to
Right.
that they're going to issue for housing authorities.
It looks like it.
This was through the Senate, a bill that was proposed in the Senate. I don't know where it actually is. It wasn't today.
Oh,
So
I
this,
just
she said she got it today.
I gave it to her today to look at, to see if it would even apply to this. I mean, this was just someplace to start. This was never meant to be the whole deal. You know what I mean?
Oh, well, you had it as an agenda item, I
Well,
thought.
only so we could discuss it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Because I mean, I just threw it out there as someplace to start. Did I think it was going to be the actual thing? No.
Yes.
Is there any way the person that made the motion would mind holding this until the next meeting so we can get further information? Who made you made the motion?
Joyce made the motion.
Oh, Joyce.
You have to withdraw the motion.
Trouble did. Would you mind, Joyce?
That's fine. You would have to withdraw the motion, and then the second would have to be withdrawn in order for us to do that without voting on it. All right.
And thank you.
And if in the meantime, if any of the board members would like to play with this to see what you would like
A
to
little more
see.
tweaked. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
What I would like to suggest is, if you get your ideas together and to save time, so when we come to the next meeting, if you want to send them into Laurie, she could send them out to us ahead of time so we could look at them.
And could we get a copy of that
Yeah.
other thing too, please?
Yeah, I actually just found that, and I pulled it off because, yeah, I can actually copy it.
No, even just put it in our next packet, we'll have enough time to look
Well,
over the weekend, or if you want to send it out earlier.
Because there've been different
I
things
think-
on bullying, and there's actually, they've gone to
Excuse
a
me.
conference on it, and there's a speaker that I would actually like to get to come in and actually speak to our people about elder abuse and bullying and the whole deal. And we might actually open it up to the town, and if any town employees would like to go, I mean, because we're gonna end up having to pay this woman to come, the more people that can listen to her, the better.
Right. Yeah.
You know, but we'll get in touch with her, find out when she could do a presentation, and then we'll go from there. Because this sounds like it's all a new deal. I mean, they're dealing with bullying in the schools, now they're looking at bullying, and it's in housing authorities,
Hospital.
it's nursing homes, it's all kinds of groups where people are living.
Right.
So they're trying to come out with something,
Well,
and I threw this out as just something, here we go. First draft. But if we could get this woman to actually explain
excuse me.
what it is, and then maybe we have more information. I don't expect this to happen in any time soon, you know, it's gonna take us a while.
In the meantime, I'll find that thing.
Right.
Get it done.
All
Well,
right?
like I always say, there's good bullying policies and they're bad.
Yeah, this is a first attempt. at-
No, that's fine, I'm just saying, all
start
bullying
somewhere.
policies don't,
Right, and do we
Work
want a
out well.
separate policy for the board and the employees, and a separate one for the residents? Or do we just want one policy for the whole housing authority?
well, the way I look at it is if you're gonna do it for one, you do it for all.
Yes.
And
Simple as that,
have
don't-
it the same thing, and
Eat.
have everybody be treated the same way?
Exactly.
I
Yep.
agree with that too.
So that that makes it easier, because we're just looking at one policy. As to how you discipline, that's a little different, because the residents have their own procedure already in place, and the employees already have a disciplinary procedure in place
Yeah,
through the
but-
personnel policy,
Okay.
okay? There is one in place for that. And the only one that doesn't is
And I think there is,
Well,
that's
the
what I was
board-
looking for, there is I believe there is a policy on how to handle that.
but we'll have
As far
to,
as the board goes,
but we can ask Jeffrey
But we
Driscoll
don't have-
about that.
Yes.
no.
You know, because maybe that's something that he did cover, but he didn't spend any time on it because it wasn't an issue.
Right. No, that's,
All right, so this, I think,
I get it.
we'll go back to the drawing board on this one, but at least we've got something in place.
It's a good
Okay.
beginning.
Stop. Yeah.
It's
Is
just a
everybody in
start.
agreement? Yes.
What would happen if, two people, is a little vague, would they have an arbitrator or
Can you speak up a
straighten it
little
out?
bit, please? Can you say that again and say
If
it
someone
louder?
was, it was a little vague, and is there some sort of process that an arbitrator could sit down and try to?
That's what we're trying to figure out is the process. That's why we ask for
Could
more.
be part of the process.
They do have arbitrators for these kind of
Okay.
problems. You know, that's something that we would bring in, and, you know, we'd have to obviously pay the people, but there is
Mediators.
mediators, yeah.
But
For
some things
this.
are very blatant, and other things is a little, he said, she said type of thing.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Yeah. Then sometimes, in some of them instances you're talking about, he said, she said, sometimes doesn't even constitute the bullying.
Yeah.
And the bullying policy, if the way it gets written, if it's not written right, automatically that's gonna be bullying. And, some things shouldn't be on that list. Sometimes bullying policies go way too far. And the thing is, we've gotta try to balance it so it works for everybody. You're right, you're absolutely right.
And we'll have to put the mediation option in the
Yeah,
new
in the
policy
policy.
as one of the, but that's a good point, Joyce.
So if everybody could come up with their ideas and see that they get to Lori, then she can get them out at least before the next meeting. so that we can discuss them at the meeting.
And I'll get in touch with Jeffrey Driscoll and find out if there is in fact. I know the other two are all set as far as the residents and as far as the employees, that's already in place. As far as the board goes, that's another issue. And I want to ask him about if a board member has a problem with an employee, what's the proper avenue to take?
Well, I know what avenue I would have taken, but it's different. But
But
it wasn't me that
no, but that's something that I can ask him about.
Well, that's the other thing that I wanted to mention is if somebody does have a complaint, it should be the person who had the episode happen to them that makes the complaint and not someone else.
No,
Has
I
to be the
disagree.
person.
I disagree because I was a board member here, and I felt that this whole board was dishonored by the things that happened at a meeting. And as a board member, I was offended, and I had the right to make a complaint. I already know that. That's a fact. Call Boston. That's all I can tell you.
I think
It's absolutely right.
we should, I mean, I think as a board member, as a town employee, as a town resident, I think anybody that was offended, would have a right to file a
Absolutely.
complaint. I mean, that's,
But the offense wasn't against them.
it doesn't necessarily,
It was against
It
a
does-
board member. Then we
I
are
don't think
part
it
of that
necessarily
board.
even has to be
It
against
doesn't have to be.
them.
Just a minute, is that
But
okay?
I'm sorry.
if you see somebody being treated poorly,
Yeah.
you have an obligation to speak up.
Go ahead.
But, do you know what I'm saying? And that goes,
No, I know what you're saying. I agree.
like, in other words, if you see somebody getting assaulted verbally by somebody else, I mean, wouldn't you step in and say, hey, wait a minute. And if it's to the point where you call 911, you call 911. But you don't sit back and allow somebody to get hurt, whether physically or mentally. You just don't do it.
Right. No, I agree.
That to me is, I mean, if it's bullying, I don't know, but is it harassment? Is it badgering? Is it disrespectful? Is it rude? It could be any one of those things. Is it right? No. It's wrong.
That's right.
And we shouldn't be sitting by and allowing it to happen to anybody. And that's just my,
But I think it goes back again to that we need to treat everyone the way we want to be treated. And if we did, we wouldn't have any problems.
So you're
Wouldn't have a
saying,
jail
the way
either.
the board member was treated last time, we should treat them people like that?
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is everyone should think about the other person before, and what's happened before this.
what did they say? Make sure your words are something long, because they may very well be the words you have to eat.
And not only that, if you're pointing your finger at someone else, 3 fingers are coming back at you. So, that's something else to
It's an old.
I wasn't around then.
Probably not, Wayne.
So,
Excuse me.
we'll go back to the drawing board on this.
Okay.
And your point, I think was well taken, yes,
Thank you.
just my opinion.
Are we ready to go on to the next discussion?
Yep.
The next one is the discussion on the we need a motion so that we can discuss the fraud policy, please.
Make that motion. Discuss the fraud policy.
Discussion.
Now, this was another draft, and I put draft right on it. And I put what HUD, some guidance that HUD had given on this. Did you guys get that? It probably wasn't in this packet,
No.
but I think it was in the,
It was in the
it was in
previous
the
one.
previous one you got.
Okay.
It was in,
I don't have that
it was in,
one.
no,
I'm trying to conserve my paper.
Yeah, but we need the information.
But you hit that.
You did get it.
Yeah,
You
last
did
time.
get it. And I mean, this is,
Kind of right.
and this is another one, if there's more that needs to be added or whatever, but it's a start.
Does anyone have any problems with this one? Okay, so we've already got a motion and a second. If there's no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the next one is discussion and vote on the credit card policy.
Now, this one was a little confusing because the residents, some of the residents had asked me if this applies to them, and it doesn't. This is just a control that I want to put in place for the housing authority credit cards. Nothing to do with the residents or the board members'
Right.
credit cards. This just strictly involves
Can I have mine?
This is just oversight for the housing authority, and when the state auditors come in, they're gonna ask to see that we have a credit card. I went back and I looked at state audits from other housing authorities and things that they've been knocked for, so that I can make sure that we're in compliance. So things that they're looking for now as opposed to the last time we were audited are different. And one of these things was a credit card policy to ensure that we have appropriate measures in place to protect housing authority credit cards.
So you have them now?
Yes, we have very few credit cards. We don't have a MasterCard, Visa in the housing authority's name. The only thing we have is Shell, the gas, Home Depot, Walmart, and Staples. Those are the only credit cards the housing authority actually has. So any other purchases that need to be made are usually made by the person that's like me. You'll see reimbursements to me. It's because I used my own credit card or I used my own cash, and I'm reimbursing myself for that expense because I do not want the housing authority to have a MasterCard or Visa in the housing authority's name. I just don't feel that it's necessary. And if we need to buy something, that we can go through the purchase order process,
Right.
or we can establish a line of credit with a vendor. We don't need to be using just a blanket credit card to cover housing authority expenses. We already have other processes in place to cover our.
That's good.
And as far as the audits go, we've always done real well because we don't have the credit card. And any time anybody puts in to be reimbursed, all the paperwork has to go with it to support, the receipts and whatever has to go with the reimbursement check. So that when the auditors do come in, they can say, oh, well, Laurie got reimbursed for $400 and something. What was it for? And everything that I put in to be reimbursed for is attached right to it. And that's what he's into.
That's good.
Okay, so this is just to cover us so that when the auditors come in, yes, in fact, we do have a policy.
Through the chair, how many credit cards do you have for each, and do you have set people that the only ones that are using, like you or the head of maintenance or something like that?
Okay, we have 3 credit cards for Home Depot. They're all with the same account number. There's just 3 cards. And one is in my name, one is in Frank's name, one is in Jeremy's name. That's it.
That's it?
That's it, Home Depot. As far as the gas cards go, we have 2 for Shell. They're both in mine.
Okay.
And as far as Walmart, there's only 1 card, and then there's a tax exempt certificate that goes with that, because we're tax exempt. That's only in mine.
Okay, so,
In Staples, Staples is in mine too, and there's only 1 card. And we also have a tax exempt card for Staples. That's it.
So you have good, tight control over who uses them. That's good.
Well, the thing was with me, through the chair, the
Yes.
thing was through me was I just wanted to see how many we get out. I don't want to see that we have, you know, 6,
Yeah.
7 cards in this place and 6, 7 cards in that place. And that's good.
That's good.
That's good.
So we don't have a lot of credit cards, and they're well controlled, but that was the whole purpose of this policy.
Does anyone have a problem with the policy, the way it's written?
No?
Then may I please have a vote to pass this credit card policy?
And so moved.
No, we had a motion and we just need to vote. All in favor?
All right.
No.
We did.
Yeah,
No.
we did. Because we can't discuss it without motion. Is that the one? Okay. The next thing is discussion and vote on hiring a part-time clerk.
I'd like to hire a part-time clerk. We have the money in the budget. Maureen's hours, because she's a retiree, she's limited to the number of hours that she can work, so she's running out. So I want to offset her hours by hiring a part-time clerk to help us in the office. And we had put an ad in the paper. We had quite a few replies. We interviewed 3 people. The criteria we looked at, remember the day we made the list? Education, Auburn resident, housing experience, computer skills, organizational skills, budgeting, customer service, and have their own benefits, so that we're not going to be responsible for benefits.
That's a good thing.
This is an 18-hour position at $16 an hour. And after interviewing, we interviewed 3 people based upon what we had for the criteria. And I'd like to recommend that we hire Betty Basinskis as the part-time clerk.
Can I have a motion?
I make a motion that we do, because she covers
Is
all
there a
those
second?
things. Second.
Discussion. Yes.
You indicated that this person was going to be hired because someone else's hours are reaching the maximum that she can work. So is that person going to be continuing, and is
There'll
this
still be hours. There'll still be hours.
and is this 18-hour position going to continue?
Yes.
For the duration, for the year, or
Yes.
forever? So you
For as
have-
long as we need the position.
But I'm just trying to understand. So you're bringing the position on board because another position can't work the number of hours that she did? Is that fair to say?
Yes, she's limited to the number of hours, and
Okay.
because she covered for other people's vacations, and when other people were sick, she expended her hours prior to what, but there were other hours that didn't get used, that were still in the clerk's position. This is a clerk's position.
Right.
So the hours are actually there to support this position.
So, how many hours a week was the position, I don't want to mention the names, but
18.
she was working 18? Okay, she was working 18. How many is she going to work now? Because she has to go down in hours.
I think she has like 50 hours left.
Okay. And this new person is going to work 18, right?
And there were hours in Bev's position left. So between the two, there's hours.
I'm just trying to understand, would you be bringing in this part-time position now if the other part-time person didn't have to watch her hours?
No, I was gonna bring this position in anyway. This was even before I knew that was gonna happen.
So how many hours do you have, can you tell us how many hours you have of office staff time and the different positions?
Okay, so we have a clerk that has 30 hours. We have a housing specialist that has 30 hours. We have an occupancy specialist that has 30 hours.
And then you're gonna have a part-time
Plus.
clerk?
It's going to absorb some of the occupancy and some of the clerical hours.
So the part-time clerk that's running out of hours, which
It's
position?
the occupancy. She's in occupancy.
Okay. And so now you're gonna have another 18-hour position?
Right, which the occupancy position is scheduled for 30, but she's working 18 a week in order to spread it out over the course of the year.
So.
And the clerk, the first clerk that has 30, works 18. She didn't want to work full-time.
So, a 30, 30, 18, and 18.
But take
That's
18 away
96.
from the 30.
And it's not gonna cost any more money
No.
than it does now. Is that what you're saying? Or
Right, it's within the budget.
Well, does DHCD and or HUD have a formula for determining the size of office staff hours you need, the amount of office staff? Like they have a maintenance
They have a
formula.
maintenance, but they don't have a clerical.
They do not have a clerical?
And what's happening is, because when I first came here, nothing was automated. Ledger cards weren't, we didn't have any housing computer software at all. Remember, Ian? We didn't have any. So we had to purchase software and did most of the inputting for all these different programs, and it's now automated. But because it's automated, you need to have somebody that has good computer skills that can do the data entry and keep these reports and things current. Because we've taken on more federal, we have more reports. It's automated, should have made it easier, but in some ways it didn't, because you have to spend time in front of the computer to get the stuff in there, to generate the reports.
And there's a lot of reports. Yes.
Do you have to add your position in on this too? No, maybe not. Okay.
Well, I mean, I am in there.
Right, but you're part of that. I'm just trying to figure out
She's not part
how
of
much
the
office people we need. Huh? No, not as far as the hours, I know that. I'm just talking about workload.
Just a minute, Ian, Mike.
Sorry, Ed.
No, you were done, Wayne? Wayne?
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, can you just help me clarify this? You have a clerk that's budgeted for 30 hours but works 18, is that correct? You have a housing specialist that's budgeted for 30 but works 18?
That works 30.
She works 30, okay. Then you have an occupancy specialist that's budgeted for 30 but works 18?
Correct.
And then you want to have another part-time clerk that will be doing some of those functions that's going to work 18, is that correct?
So I want it to be where everybody can do everybody else's job, that nobody has any specific, like if Debbie is not calculating rents and she has time, then she's going to be doing inventory, or she'll be doing occupancy with, as far as the applications, helping out with the applications. If Maureen, you know, because I mean, everybody has to help with the purchasing and as far as the phone calls, as far as getting people in for the housing piece of it. There's so much overlapping in these positions that everybody really needs. It's kind of pointless to even have these titles because everybody kind of does whatever they need to do.
Or actually,
So the titles really should go away in that sense.
Does everybody that you have hired or hiring have the technology for the computer? Do they all are able to use a computer?
Everybody that we have is able to use the computer. Are they as computer literate as other people? No. You know what I mean?
No,
It's-
no, I understand what you're saying. So
we're
there's some that are more,
Some are more,
and some are
more-
less, but they
right.
can do it.
Everybody knows how
That's
to
what I
use the
mean.
computer. Everybody knows all the different
But all the
systems.
database and everything that you're putting in there,
Right.
everybody can handle it.
Right, and everybody can access to get the information. Like, say if somebody calls up and wants to know if someone applied, everybody in the office knows how to go in to see if in fact the person has an application on file. Everybody can go in to look to see what somebody's rent is. You know, there's certain things that everybody knows how to do. Is everybody as proficient at it? I mean, do we have data entry clerks? No. Do you know what I mean? We don't have that level of skill because a lot of these people didn't have that kind of experience. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Coming in.
Now, the one you're asking to hire, does she have that skill?
Yes, she does. Yes, she does. And I'm hoping that with all these other things going on, because she has those skills, we're going to be even better as far as communication goes, like things going out to the residents, to the community, because it does take time to even write a letter and to have it look like normal. I mean, you need to know how to set it up. I mean, I never took secretarial or computer. I mean, when Ann was here, she did most of the letters because she knew how to set it up. You know what I mean? So we need somebody that has that kind of a background. And right now, we don't have that. So I'm trying to fill a void.
And you had your hand up.
I just wanted to make sure I got this right. So we have 90 clerical hours budgeted, and with the way you've got things split up, with the new position, it will be 84 hours of time. Does that sound right? Or no? Well, you said you had two existing 18-hour week people. You said you have one 30-hour person, and you're going to bring in another 18-hour person, correct? So that's 84. And you told me you had 3 positions currently budgeted for 30 hours each. That's 90. So is my math right? I'm just asking. But I don't know, like, I don't have my budget, so I don't know, like, the dollar amount of figures. So I know you're within the hours, but the dollars
We're within the dollar.
We're within the dollars?
Yeah.
Can you tell us what the hourly rates are for the other folks? The clerk, the first clerk you mentioned,
Everybody is 16.
16?
they're all 16? The clerk and the housing specialist, and they're all 16?
I think one clerk is actually at 14. And then everybody else is at 16.
And there's one other position, I'm sorry, I forget what you call it, liaison, community liaison. How many hours a week does that person?
12.
12.
And that's
16.
16 hours.
$16.
I mean, $16, sorry.
So altogether with that position, then we're at 96 hours? 84 and 12?
And that's if everybody works what they're supposed to work. Because the majority of these people don't earn, sick time or vacation time. So if they're off, they're not getting paid.
Just the 30-hour week person gets benefits.
Yes.
And they over 22, I think, if you have to, right?
Is that-
22?
Is anybody else on the board have any questions?
I think that's a good choice.
I think it'll help as far as researching things. We want to make sure that what we do is right. And if somebody can go through and look at policies and grants and type a letter and have it look halfway decent, you know, I mean, we have a lot of correspondence that needs to go out to the residents, and we need to have, I mean, if it goes to court, it needs to look professional.
Are we ready to vote? Okay, all in favor of hiring Ellen Brzezinski? There's three. And all of those opposed?
Absolutely
I'm
not.
opposed.
Okay. It carries.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
This is the first time I've ever heard of the board actually voting on a specific person, because that's your vote. We just vote on, we should be voting on a position. And I don't think we should be voting on, I don't think it's our role to vote on a person.
If
That's your choice.
I bring a person forward, and that's the way it was supposed to. I asked Karen all this, how we're supposed to do it. And she says, you identify a candidate that you want to hire, and then you bring that person to the board.
Do you have that in writing?
It's in my contract. If you look at my contract, it's in my contract.
I don't have it.
Yeah, you do.
That's in the contract?
It is.
Yeah. Because
But we don't get to see resumes or anything like that. No, I saw the ad in the paper, I know.
But she does the hiring and firing.
No, I
All she
know.
has to do is bring the
Bring the
candidate
candidate
forward to the
forward.
board.
So-
these are the resumes.
So is that the case for any position? You need to bring the candidate forward to the board?
That's
Like
the way,
maintenance or anything?
that's the way it should be.
That's the way?
Sure.
From the way she explained it to me, and I had asked DHCD, and they said, well, what does your contract say?
Okay.
And it spells it out in my contract that I identify a candidate that I want to hire, and then I bring it to the board. Do you need a copy of my contract?
I'll look see what I have at home. I don't have it.
I have it all. Just get
We
the
all
man.
should have a copy of your contract.
But I had pulled it out anyway, because when I wanted to ask, because I didn't want any problems with this, so I did ask. So, I mean, I can give you a copy of the contract. You want one?
No, I don't.
Are we ready for the next item?
It's in my head.
The next item is update on the subcommittee on additional housing. I don't know whether you have anything yet or not, but
Mr. Page and I met last week with Sean Carpenter from Shamrock Development Group, and he gave us a lot of information about potential things to look at, very preliminary. We did find out from him that there are a lot of housing authorities in the state that are going through expansion processes right now, and that there is a ton of money out there available. There are grants, there are tax credits, there are historical credits. We talked about the possibility of the 2 schools that are likely to be coming offline in about a year. One of which I've never been through JB, but he told us how difficult it is transitioning from one level to another, and it would probably be really hard to put an elevator in there, but the other school might be a possibility.
isn't there an elevator in there now?
I said no, but
No, I think they put one in.
Wasn't
I
there
think
an issue
that
with the stairs, though?
They're
The
not, like,
stairs at
lined up
JB
right or
are really
something.
messed up.
Oh, they're terrible.
But I think if we were to repurpose that whole, like, it would be gutted, you
If it would be
know?
part of that.
Yeah, that would be part of the process.
Excuse me,
Sorry.
we were all interrupted you.
Sorry.
Sorry.
But anyways, he had suggested that being more familiar with the other school, and again, very preliminary discussions, the other school might be a good candidate for historic credit. He said there's historic credits and tax credits that might be able to be utilized for a redo, and it would avoid the need to get a grant. So you could potentially fund the whole thing. And I don't understand enough about the funding mechanisms to understand everything he said about how this whole process would work. So he's supposed to be sending I checked my email today, I don't have anything from him, but he was gonna provide something so we could have some information to show the board. But the first thing we have to do is really kind of, we need to have an assessment, we need to have someone come in and do an assessment of our needs. And he did say that it's practically impossible to get money for just elderly. You have to be looking at a mix. And right now, there's more, you know, the funding has turned from public properties to, I'm sorry, the funding has turned from private properties to public properties. So there's more money out there and there's more things going on in the public arena. And there are a lot of different ways to fund things. If you know, but you know, you got to understand the process, which I'm not totally clear on yet, but he's helping us to become educated. But the first thing, you know, we'd probably be needing like $4,000 to $5,000 to hire somebody to do an assessment. He was going to try to see if there was a planning grant that we might be able to get to do that with. Otherwise, we kind of have to put $5,000 in our budget. But of course, the whole thing is a public process.
The only thing with that is, from what I understood, we can't use any of our existing budget to fund additional housing.
But there is.
The only thing I think that might be is the Section 8 money from years ago. There's some money there, there's not a lot, but that's actually our money. We earned that as an admin fee years ago when we ran the Section 8 program. So whatever money is in that Section 8 account, if the board decided they wanted to vote to use that as seed money, it's not, I don't even know if it's 5,000. I haven't looked at it lately. But I mean, that would be our money. We could ask if we could use that. But as far as our regular operating budget, absolutely, we can't use any of that money.
Right, but he did say that there are ways to, he was talking about setting up like a non-profit
Yeah.
to run things through, so that there might be an opportunity. And again, I'm not savvy on the financial end of it, admittedly. But there are a lot of opportunities out there, and it's definitely, I think it's definitely worth exploring. We're very preliminary. I mean, I took a ton of notes and I haven't had time to put them together. But, you know, he was very optimistic about the opportunities for us to expand. And the fact that we have federal and state housing is a good thing. The fact that we have housing in existence is a good opportunity to expand what we have. You know, he was very optimistic about it, not like, you know, it's never going to happen, or you don't have a first chance, or you know, very, very, did you think?
Yes, I thought it was great, and it's all right to talk.
It's all right.
Ian explained it very well. And everything was done right, but like she's saying, this is only the very beginning. We had one meeting with this guy, and that's it. And we need a lot more before we can really understand where we're going, because we're on the learning process as we're doing this too. So, but it was very encouraging what he had said.
Now, there's paperwork in the files that looks like at one point the Housing Authority tried to establish a nonprofit, but it never went through. From what I can figure out, it's like there was like preliminary work done, but I don't know whether you need to, there's a cost to it. And that's the other thing, that money can't come out of our budget. So we need to really partner. Like when they did the Kateri project at North American Martyrs, they partnered with Elder Services of Worcester. So Elder Services of Worcester was a funding source for them. And Pat actually did their application. So she might actually be someone that you could approach as to a possible avenue as to where we should go, because she was instrumental in getting Kateri.
Through the chairman, I can talk to Lou Swan too.
Absolutely.
I'm on the director's board down there, so I can probably get more information from him and see if they can help us out. And I mean, when Mr. Carpenter was talking to us, he said 4,000, but he said it could be less.
Yeah.
So we're not sure on the total amount it's going to be, but it's definitely not going to be no more than 5,000. So I like to hear from him, get more information from him, hear from him what he believes it would actually cost, then talk to the board about it. I'll talk to the elderly affairs director and move that way, and then we'll just keep moving forward.
Ian, would you approach Pat and ask her,
I could try.
you know, and see?
I also have a question with that. I think I don't know how you handle this, but we're getting information from different people. Is the people that we get the information from, is that going to prevent them from putting in a bid to do the whole project if?
I don't think so. No, because he's done his own
It won't do anything as far as
No.
It's
like
just-
advertising?
This is just
for it?
information.
It's just information, and we're not giving him any money.
And he's
Right.
he was right up front, he
But
said,
if we need the 4,000 to do this, then it changes.
But then it's up to, yeah, but all the information he's giving us, it doesn't matter, he can still put in. He may not even be the one to get it,
Right.
Right.
He's
Well,
just
that's
giving
what
but he
the
still has the
information.
right.
That's
yes.
what, that's what I was just trying to say, yes, Amy.
Yes.
I was just gonna say that he was very upfront, and it's a very public process.
Yes.
You know, and he has lots of,
Right.
some bids he's been successful, and some he has not.
I
But it
just
still
wanted to
has
make
to
sure.
be,
No,
it still would
that's a
have to
good
be a
question.
public. And the other thing I was gonna tell you was that he also mentioned that, you know, sometimes there are other means of, you talk about partnerships. You know, perhaps partnering with another development, with a developer, with a local developer, or something like that. You might be able to partner that way.
Consider that right now.
There's just different, there's a lot of different options
Right.
out there. So we're just trying to find our way. But
Right.
I didn't have
Right,
anything in
first
writing to
meeting.
give
You
you yet.
explained it very well, I thought. Good job.
And I think
Yes.
as far as anybody that would partner with us, I
Can
mean,
we stop for a minute? She wants to change her table.
Is that all right?
Yes.
Thank you. You're doing your homework.
as far as anybody partnering with us, we don't owe anybody anything. All our bills paid, everything we have, we own. Our buildings, our equipment. I don't know if, I don't know what they look for as far as collateral or how we, you know, but that's something that you might want to ask, like,
Right, we don't know, it's just an option.
yeah.
You know, there's different options. We're not saying that just because we're saying partnership, that
Yeah.
you're gonna go with a partnership. There's so many different things, and we are still learning at the process go. One meeting, but
But
we
look
learned
what you
quite a
learned.
bit. We
Look what you
learned quite a
learned in
bit.
one
between
meeting.
there.
That was great.
Yeah.
And he also did tell us that, you know, we're not a nonprofit, we're a quasi-state agency, and he said that if you look at the definitions of those two terms, they are very causally related, and they're very close in relationship.
Right, yes, indeed.
So, like I said, there's an awful lot, we got an awful lot of information in a couple of hours, but, you know, we're trying to sort it out, and he's supposed to be providing us some written documentation.
We did speak a few years ago with another, we had property that came up that we were interested in proposing, but it was not good for the housing authority at that time. There were problems with the property.
Well, that's the thing too, we may come into the end of this and say, you know, this is not the way to go, but if it's something that we can help families and seniors and handicapped people and add to it for the people in this town, I think we as subcommittee need to get it out there so
That's right.
the committee gets a good decision and
Yeah.
understands.
We could even approach the church for that landlocked land in the back that abuts us.
There you go.
I mean, nobody else can build on it because we're blocking them on three sides.
How much is back there? Do you remember?
But all I know is that we're on all three sides of this, and it would make sense to do something
No,
with,
no.
something with that
Right.
land. And there's other land actually back there that looked like it had been a phase at another time, like down the hill. I mean, they'd have to do like big grading, and then there's a brook, so there's a brook back there at some point. But I mean, there is other land that we own up here that we might be able to do something with too. But I mean, even to approach the church on that landlocked piece.
I just,
Yes, sir.
I just think it's important to, keep the options open and to keep an open mind.
Moving forward.
Absolutely.
And just get as educated as we can. And hopefully we can do something for the betterment of the town. For the better, and another thing that came up, we were discussing, trying to make this palatable. And one thing we were talking about was local preference. And, obviously, and actually last night it was said at the selectmen's meeting, someone stood up and we were talking about housing, and someone said, and it's so true, that people actually die on the waiting list waiting to get into housing. It's true. It is absolutely true.
And that's everywhere.
And it wasn't me that
Yeah,
said
it's not
that.
just,
No,
But it was said last night, and it is very true. And, we talked about the fact that it would probably be more palatable to people if they knew that a lot of town residents were going to be able to utilize that housing, so they're not, And Sean had pointed out to us, Mr. Carpenter had pointed out to us that you'd have to get the state legislature and Congress to change the federal rules, the state legislature to change HUD's rules, the DHCD's rules relative to preferences. And maybe somewhere down the road, not that you're gonna, maybe you could make it more local preference. Do you know what I mean?
right.
So maybe like 75% could be, I'm just talking just ideas. Maybe 75% could be dedicated to town residents, 25% would be open to anyone. Because we get a lot of applications that are not from Auburn. And you don't, and I think, this is just my humble opinion, I think people might be more receptive to the idea if they knew that more people in their own community were going to benefit from the housing. And I think the same is true in other communities around the state. I think if people live in Springfield, they want to live in Springfield. And, people from Auburn, they want to live in Auburn. They don't want to, if they've lived their whole lives in Auburn, they don't want to spend their golden years in Worcester. Or, not that there's anything wrong with Worcester, but their family's here, their knowledge is here, their services are here. This is where they're from. And they're not going to want to spend those elderly years in another community. And I think it might be more palatable for townspeople to support because you've got to get support. You've got to have the public, you've got to have your residents support. And I think if they knew that, I'm sorry, I apologize.
No, that's fine. I didn't know you were still going.
I just think that, if there's ways that you can figure out a way to get people to be more receptive to housing, I think they might be more inclined to be with support.
That's true. Wayne?
I agree with Ann 100% as far as residents go, they should come first. But the thing is, you have to go through the legislature and get these bills put in and voted on, because as we go through this process, even to getting housing, by the time you get some of these bills through there, it's years and years, it could be 5-10 years later when we can still look forward to getting housing anyway for the people that need it.
Right.
You can't do it tomorrow with the legislator and that. You know that, I know that, everybody knows that.
But I think you gotta keep in mind that it's not town of Auburn housing. It's like the town of
Right.
Auburn is not paying for
No,
this
Right,
housing.
state,
So
right.
we've gotta work
But-
with the feds and the state
right.
because it's federal money and it's state money that's actually supporting these properties. The town of Auburn, we pay a pilot to the town. The town doesn't pay us anything other than paying into taxes to the state and federal. Do you know what I mean? It
No, I know exactly
It
what you
isn't town housing, it's
No.
state and
Right.
federal housing.
But-
But a lot of people don't understand that.
Right.
Maybe now they will, because,
But, if I may.
yes.
I'm just, and again, this is just my ideas, but I think it's not going to be something that would be just centralized to Auburn. It would be, if the Congress changed the rules on HUD housing, every community would have the opportunity to be able to place their own residents on a priority basis. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm not opposed to people from other communities at all, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I think that if every community could help their residents, people that have lived in Auburn all their lives, I'm not saying that somebody that moved in yesterday would get local preference, but people that have lived in Auburn for 40, 50 years, you know,
I think, would you call Kateri and ask them if they have a resident preference? If Auburn has a resident preference in their program? I mean, I don't want to call because it looks like I'm fishing for information, but if you call, and I said it on TV, so they're going to know me.
There you go.
That's okay, I'm up front, I'm not the one, because you're, you know what I mean? Do they, because they are funded by HUD, were they allowed to put a resident preference in place? I know they don't have to take any non-elderly people, they're strictly elderly.
right. And I think that's because.
Which is a good question to ask.
I think it's because it's that 202 program.
202?
Yeah.
But if we could do a 202 program and free up some of the elderly
Well,
list,
that's
and then do another program for the non-elderly and everybody else, you know what I mean?
Well, he specifically said that we could look into, we could do it.
Right.
You know, when we were discussing it.
Alice.
One comment you made was about if they would assist our needs. Would they be going through and wanting to know how many applications we have, what town they're from?
They would, I don't know about the town, but I know they would be looking at the volume of applications that we have, how much housing stock we have. They look at our finances, look at our reserves, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because there are certain criteria for applying for grants that you have to meet relative to how much we have in reserves. And I don't, again, I'm not a math person, so there's
I would
just,
think we're in good shape. And as far as the application process, it's easy because it's all in PHA network.
right,
We can generate reports
right.
on everything that's been inputted.
And it's just,
Easy enough. Yeah.
Easy.
it's just numbers, just so you know. I mean, it's not anything with anybody's names on it. It's
No.
just numbers. It's
No.
just,
That's it.
it's just figures. It's not anything specific as far as people.
Because there are people that go to every town around that has housing
Right.
and make an application in every town.
Right, and also, if I may, for folks that are in shelters, the shelters require them to apply to housing. So they give them a list of housing authorities with a name and address and a pile of applications. And we're at the beginning of the alphabet, so we
So
get
we
a lot.
get,
You
we
know,
do get.
so we get bushels on them because of that.
And when Kateri went to do their application, they used the housing authority's numbers to generate their assessment of need. So, and it hasn't, our need hasn't gone down at all
Right.
because our waiting list didn't go down at all.
No.
And it isn't that the people haven't left, been filled, because that's exactly what happened. People die or they leave, and then immediately, as soon as we can, we get people in those apartments. Because there is such a waiting list, and Auburn is known, I believe, for having, filling our quotas as soon as we can.
And as far as building up our reserves, we're actually in a lot better shape because we're using capital fund money to offset our big expenses. So we're being compensated by state and federal for our big money purchases so that we actually have extra money in reserve. And we're still moving forward as far as doing the repairs to the buildings.
And when you said they are going to do this, and who's going to come in to do this? We formally hire?
You have to hire a
Oh, yeah,
consultant to
yeah.
come and do it.
Yes, that's what I'm
Somebody
saying.
like not
It's not-
necessarily him, but somebody like a him. Somebody in that field. And just so you know, I mean, he's not new to this.
No.
He's been in housing for 17 years.
Yeah, he knows what he's talking about.
Is he that old now?
He's 38.
That's my paper. He's 38
So
years
that
old.
doesn't make
Wow.
But anyways, he's been in housing a long time. He's worked
Oh,
for
he
the
knows what
state,
he's talking about.
Mass Housing Alliance. You know, he's had his own company for quite some time now. So, I mean,
Impressed me.
He's very well versed in the subject.
And I think it's great that he's actually taken the time to sit down with you to explain
Yeah,
everything.
that's good. Nice job.
So more to follow with you.
Okay, now can we have, are we through with this discussion? Everybody's all set? All right, let's go on to the executive director's report. All right.
Okay, as of right now, we have one vacancy at Stoneville. We have 2 vacancies at Packagug in the front, and we have 1 vacancy at Pheasant Court. I expect all of these units to be filled by the end of the month. We had a couple people pass away. We had 1 transfer to a different sized unit, and we had 1 move from Stoneville to the Packagug because they needed a first floor. So all these people will be absorbed from the waiting list. In the Pheasant Court actually will be filled by a resident that needs to go from a 2-bedroom to a 3-bedroom. So that'll be filled by a resident, and then it'll go to the waiting list. And it'll be filled by the emergency waiting list for the state. So those are the vacancies. Everything, we should be back to normal once anything else happens by the end of the month. We had a roof put on Auburn Heights. It came out great. I put in to be reimbursed for the cost through the state. So it was $16,200, and we'll be getting that money back. We've had other work items scheduled. We'll be filling the cracks in the sidewalks and the driveway in the back of Packagug in preparation for the inspection. We did the sidewalks out here, and then we'll have somebody come through and do the parking lot out here. But it's too late in the year now to seal coat anything. So we'll just make sure that all the cracks are filled, and then in the spring or as soon as it gets warm enough, we'll have everything seal coated and put new lines in. The whole cable thing happened. I don't know if anybody's having any issues. We haven't really heard of anything lately in the office, but as far as the going digital. Paul, did you have any problems with that? No? So we managed, Debbie went door to door with the charter people and kept good track, and so that seemed to work out well. We're actually co-sponsoring a dinner on Thursday night at the senior center. They're having a bluegrass band perform, and we're providing a dinner to 100 residents, town residents, housing residents that applied. So we are having it catered, and the housing authority staff that are Serve Safe certified are going to be serving the meal, I hope. But that's our plan. And on the 11th, we'll be hosting a veterans luncheon at the Auburn Elks, turkey dinner. We have 25, actually 24, one passed. We have 24 veterans that live in housing, and we invited all of them and a guest to attend a turkey dinner that the housing authority is putting on for them at the Auburn Elks on the 11th.
What time is that again?
Noon.
That's great.
We did send all the veterans cards, which we did last year too, and thanking them for their service. So, you know, the ones that can't go, then we know that at least we sent them a card. And hopefully that if we have dinners left over, then we'll ask to package them up and deliver them for the people that couldn't go.
Well, it shows the veterans too that you care, you know? That's the big thing.
We wouldn't be here. I mean, the number of World War II veterans that we have is pretty amazing. You know, and the stories that they tell are really interesting. So that we have planned.
Okay. Is it? Do you have anything else? Member items. Anything on member items? Anybody have anything else they want to bring up? Public comment. And does anybody have anything they want to say on what happened during this meeting? If not, we need to set a date for.
I don't think they can
I'm
see
sorry.
the kids in it. Yeah.
Oh, I can't
Over
see
here.
you.
Yeah, I know, that's it.
I'm sorry.
Stand up and say your name, please.
My name is Sandy Byrne, live in Stonewall Heights. I just want to say thank you to the board. Keep moving forward because that's wonderful if you, maybe if the church is willing to work with you. I think that's perfect, you know, to help move along with trying to get public housing. And Ann and Wayne, that's great input as far as the research that you've done. You know, I think you've done a wonderful job, so thank all of you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry, Denise Buckerton, that we have entertainment coming for the veterans. Yes.
What's the entertainment?
Oh, my goodness, I
Are you sick?
apologize. No.
It's a trio. Karaoke.
Who is,
No.
oh my goodness, his name has escaped me from Town Hall. Our
Larry Corbin.
Larry Corbin, I'm sorry, has given us some entertainment. He's been in contact and he has contacts that he is bringing entertainment
Great.
for the veterans.
That's good.
Oh.
I'm not sure what kind, I don't know if they're dancing monkeys, I don't know if they're singing. I don't know if it's maybe someone just playing, you know, a flute or whatever.
That's good.
But yes, there is entertainment. That's what I was trying to whisper to you, I apologize.
That's good.
And
Free of charge.
free of charge.
Wow.
That's wonderful.
For the veterans, better.
It should be.
Yeah, they deserve it.
Are we ready to set a date for the next meeting?
Oh, no, not yet. The office is going to be closed on Monday,
Yeah.
the 10th, in observance of Veterans Day, and we will be open on the 11th. Okay? So we'll be closed on the 10th,
Yeah, I know.
and we'll be open on the 11th. And I will be sending a notice to the residents to let them know. That was all I had.
Okay, well, we were going to have everybody bring their goals in for Lori's
Oh, I know it.
review with the things that we want her
That
to
was nice thing for you.
have for goals next
God
year.
bless you.
So if you could
I know it.
send them to the office.
I had 11.
We could, so we can see them at
Yeah.
that time, so we can discuss them at the meeting next time. Okay? And the forms too will be going out at the same time, so we'll have it all together so we can go through those. But we did make some changes in the form for last meeting.
Right.
Okay. The next meeting should be on Tuesday, December 2nd. Wow. At 3:30, is that all right for everyone? Okay. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Make that motion.
Second, please. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.